Welcome to week 3 of Get Growing, Brownfield's spring series of cab conversations. This week, I think we're going to talk a lot about the weather. So we will get started, get an update around the Corn Belt to see what everybody has going on and to see how things are looking there. Zach, we'll start with you in Nebraska.
Hey, well, we're a little wet and soggy here. It's been a complete turnaround of our weather. We were a day and a half left of soybeans, left the plant, and starting Saturday night through about Monday afternoon, we got anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain. A lot of it came real fast and real hard. We had flooding around here like I haven't seen in a long, long time. So good side is that means we've got plenty of soil moisture. So that water didn't have anywhere to go. The downside is we're still looking at possibly having to replant some of it just when it washed away or got pounded hard enough that that's interesting. But all in all, around here we can't complain too much when we get rain, so we'll take it. We're also a little cold. We've had frost advisories the last couple of mornings. We're down to 33 this morning, so that might nip some of that early planted stuff too.
Thanks, Zach. Keith in South Dakota, you're up next.
We've got guys that are in varying degrees of planting yet. I think for the most part, corn is finished up. Guys have either been rolling hard on soybeans. We actually got finished up with soybeans yesterday, but I don't know if, I think everybody's kind of getting pretty close, or got a good start on soybeans, and so that's kind of the status here. But like Zach, we're cold. We're not necessarily as wet as he was. We got some rain last week. We had a few days ago in between last week's conversation and this week. We're able to get things finished up. So, we had 2 or 3 days out of the last week that we were able to roll, and guys really made hay with that.
Thanks, Keith. Judi, I know you finished planting, and so maybe an update on how things are looking in Illinois.
Right here in central Illinois, everything's looking really good. The corn's up really well, looking green. A lot of the beans are up too. Saturday night we had 3/10 of inch rain, and then yesterday we had another inch, and so we're wet here. So I mean, it's good wet. It soaked in. It was a light rain that happened most of the afternoon and into the evening. So it was a good drenching rain and not much runoffs for that. We haven't had that cold weather they're talking about. We've been down to about, when we got up this morning, it was about 50. So right now it's probably about 55. So we've, it's been pretty good weather, considering.
Thanks, Judi. Dave, while we can't see you, we will be able to hear you. In Indiana, how are things and how are you progressing in the eastern part of the state?
Yep, East Central Indiana here. I'd say probably 95% of the corn is in, and some is starting to, you can be able to row it, just starting. Probably 20% of the beans are in, maybe, somewhere thereabouts. And we have had anywhere from 2 to 4.5 inches of rain, so we're going to be out a while to get things finished up.
Thanks, Dave. Ellen, I'm going to skip you for just a minute. Adam in Missouri, talk to us a little bit about how your weather's been and some of the things that have been going on the last week with you guys.
Over the weekend, we had some pretty nasty storms come through. There was a tornado not too far away from us, about 30 miles down the road. That cell came kind of right over us. We had some hail out of that. For the most part, we didn't have a whole lot of damage for the amount and the size of the hail we had. Some of the hail was quarter to golf ball size, and around our shop, we've noticed some damage. But for the most part, I said we're kind of lucky we didn't have any more hail or any damage from what we did. We've had anywhere from 2/10 to 2 inches of rain. We were getting ready to run this morning to go plant beans and spray, and on some ground that hadn't got any rain, and that got 2/10 of rain this morning. So it kind of made it sticky and not going to be able to get on it today yet, but we'll be rolling tomorrow first thing.
All right, Adam. Allen, you had a pretty serious system come through this week too, and glad to know that you guys are okay, but how are the crops looking in your area?
Well, I'll tell you, we got a lot of water laying around, obviously more than we want to see. We had some rain on Monday, about an inch and a half, which was really appreciated because we had like 3 to 4 inches on corn that we had planted 2.5 weeks ago, and it was dark soils were up, but the lighter soils were struggling, and we're thinking replant in spots. That was a lifesaver. So we're thinking, okay, at this point we're doing good until we got hit yesterday, and we've had anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 yesterday, in addition to what we had Monday. So we've got water that's running everywhere and sitting everywhere, and hadn't been much planting progress at all since Friday, I believe, of last week. Hail, we had hail yesterday, much like Adam. It's the biggest hail I've ever personally seen around here. We've had a lot of pea-sized hail in the past, but this was up to golf ball size, and really corn that was 3, 4, 5 inches tall that we did plant earlier that came through early. It actually knocked some of it off right at the ground. So we got a little bit of everything going on. We also had a tornado about 40 miles west of us. Not any damage around. There was some serious damage to the west of us toward the Dayton area. So we were very fortunate as far as not getting anything tore up, but we are very wet, very wet.
For you guys that are out because of the weather, whether it's because it's too wet or too cold or whatever it might be, what are you doing this week? How are you keeping up on things? And I know we have that delayed start to getting things going. Is it a little relief to get a break, or would you rather get things wrapped up?
I guess here I was ready to just get things last weekend before it started raining. I was pretty well stocked. I was ready to just keep going and get the beans planted. Obviously that changed, so I'm trying to make sure I'm ready to go for when it does dry out. Trying to get ready for side dress and liquid fertilizer, which will be coming up pretty soon after we get done planting, and then get to sit and watch the primary election results come in Nebraska on Tuesday. So it was, that was our bit of excitement.
What about for you, Dave, Allen? Adam's ready to go tomorrow, hopefully, but for us in the Eastern Corn Belt, I don't think we'll be in anytime soon.
Actually, we've been in the hog barns yesterday and again probably tomorrow. I know we will be just catching up with what we can do while we're down, and when we get dry, we can concentrate all of our efforts on the field work.
Dave?
Yeah, I swept shop floor yesterday and just picking up tools and getting things back together where they need to be and just getting ready to go the next time. Took a part that I'd broke and took it to the weld shop to get fixed, and he said, well, first of the week be okay to have that back, and I said, well, we're not going to be in the field before then. So we're so saturated now, we're a little bit like Allen that we've got water standing. There's planters still in the field that coming back from the weld shop, I saw 4 planters that they just parked and they're still sitting out there. So it's going to be a while before we can roll again.
As you guys talk to others in your area, other farmers, whether it's at the coffee shop, text messaging, Twitter, whatever you're reading and seeing, what are some of the thoughts about how things are going in and some of the things maybe you're picking up from those conversations?
Well, the Twitter's going pretty good. Yeah, right. You know, some of us older folks don't Twitter, so We just have to talk to folks when we're at the parts store or the implement dealership or wherever we're at, and it's a everybody's sitting on their hands and trying to be ready, and a lot of spraying, getting ready to start spraying again, and getting the water tanks filled back up, and making sure the chemicals are topped off, and it's just making sure, because when it goes this time, we've got to be able to hit it and go.
What about you, Keith, in South Dakota? What are you hearing from others in your area?
The big concern is getting back to the weather, the cold weather that we've had. Our corn still hasn't emerged. We're a few days away. And this will be my dad was telling me the other day that in his 40 plus years of farming, this is the longest we've ever had corn seed in the ground. We're going to be at just about 4 weeks here in a couple days. We've checked it. It looks like it'll be coming up, but we got down to below 30 last night, topping out in low 50s today. So not much action's happening out there in those soils yet. I've heard of guys further west of me that are have talked about replanting. They were in a little earlier than we were. And then in the northeast part of the state, I've got friends that only have about 10% of their corn in. About 100 miles away from me, you get up towards the North Dakota border, things along that line, and so those guys are pretty concerned about how much corn they'll be able to get in, even getting in on soybeans. So some of the same things that you folks further east are having to deal with.
How much? And excuse my, I don't know, ignorance, or just because I'm not familiar with that area, but how much potential yield loss is it, do you think, to have the crop sitting under the soil for a month? Is there?
For us, it would just be, most likely, the issue will be dry down in the fall. The earlier start that we can get, it's just, it'll get it up and out of the ground and growing, and we kind of use our full growing season here in South Dakota, and quite often it's always a race to get the crop finished, the corn actual to maturity, before a frost will kill it off, and so you have the potential of losing yield from that if things get too late. If it freezes before it reaches physiological maturity, then you'll lose test weight. If it doesn't emerge at the right time and we get too late into July, when we typically dry out, and it gets warmer and drier in late July here in South Dakota, you may be going through pollination when it's hotter and drier, and so you might have yield effects from that. But it's really too early to tell. The biggest concern now would be stand loss from having corn in the ground that long, and just the yield effects from that.
Judi, it looks like you're outside today. Are you working cattle?
Yes, we are. Yeah, I was just going to say what we were doing since we couldn't get in the field. Well, we're pretty much done anyway. We were going to do some scouting, but with this rain, we're working cattle. Yesterday we did a bunch of AI and cattle all day, and today we're building fence and moving cattle around, and we got a show coming up at the end of the month, and so, yeah, we've always got cattle work to do if we're not in the field.
When you're out scouting the fields, what have been some of the things maybe you're seeing? I know we talked last week, a little bit about, you've been hearing about black cutworm pressure, anything like that so far?
No, I haven't seen any problem with the stand or anything, or any insects. Mostly kind of seeing some weeds popping up, some morning glory and things like that. But I haven't really seen any insect damage yet.
Allen and I's insects are all drowning, so we're in good shape.
Is that a form of insect control for you guys here in the Eastern Corn Belt?
Apparently.
Unfortunately, yes.
The fish eat corn?
Yeah, I don't think so.
When you guys look at the big picture, I know we're early. It's May. although it kind of feels like it's March here in the eastern part of the Corn Belt, and I'm sure in some other areas as well. What is your thought process about the big concerns that you have for the growing season moving forward? Adam, what about you in Missouri?
Main concern for us this time of year is the river. We get these big rains, kind of like what Allen and Dave are experiencing. If we get that kind of rain north of us and anywhere in the Missouri River Basin, that can put us in trouble in a hurry. The river's jumped up on us here now, but it's nowhere near any problems. But you take these 3, 4, 5-inch rains in these big cities, in Kansas City, St. Joe, Omaha, for us, and that can put us in danger on the river in a hurry. So that's our main fear throughout these months, and once we get past that, we'll be good.
Zach, what about you in Nebraska?
I think it's dealing with the later planting and stuff being slow to come out. Just what are we going to be looking at this summer? Are we looking at a cooler, wetter summer where we're going to struggle to get things to maturity quick enough? Or are we going to get hot and dry? I guess similar concerns as usual, but with the real late emergence on everything, that's just gonna some of the timing is gonna be a little more critical this summer as far as when we get moisture and when it really gets hot and dry.
Dave, for you here in Indiana, at what point do you get nervous about the crop not getting into the ground as you look ahead to pollination in the summer months and those potentially hot and dry June and July days?
Right. Well, actually, I've thought a lot about that the last couple of days, and it was 2 or 3 years ago, and I can't remember which year it was now, but actually the June corn was just exceptional, and it was the wet year coming in, and we said that we're going to quit at such and such a date, and a couple guys or a few of the guys went ahead and planted, and that was their best corn. And I think it might have been 12 crop growing season. And so you got to hopefully that maybe the weather conditions are going to be such that something like that would happen. But I've seen it go the other way. The cutoff date on corn is June the 5th in this area as far as crop insurance, and soybeans are June the 20th, I believe they are. So, you've got some target dates there as well, and so weather conditions from here on out make all the difference, both for dates and pollination and such.
Alan, what about you? Same question.
I follow Dave a lot. I got to correct Dave on one thing. 2012 was the drought. 2011 was the year that it was wet all spring. We actually didn't start planting corn till Decoration Day.
There you go.
Yeah, and we ran for a week, and we were one of the guys that ran to the shed on June the 6th with the planter, and we should not have. Don't get me wrong, the beans we planted were really good too, but it was the type of year that it kept raining all summer. And, normally, typically, you don't expect that later planted corn was exceptional. And I'll have to say that this year, so far, is kind of stacking up like 11 because in our area, we just haven't had that much heat. We went through springs before where we've been hot and wet and you can't plant, but this has been the year where it's been cold and wet, with the exception of this last week. It's the first heat that we've had. So I guess I'm hopeful that the growing season is just a little bit later than what the calendar is, maybe by a couple of weeks. The trees, everything around us is showing that the season's just a little bit later this spring. So I'm hoping that we have a lot of heat and a lot of moisture to come as we get into June and early July.
I was home last weekend at our farm in central Illinois, which is just about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of where Judi is, and we were looking at fields and everything was just starting to row, and I was so blown away, and I guess I always am when I see how important the soil temperature is. we had corn that had been in the ground 2 weeks that was just spiking through, and the corn that we planted on Tuesday, or my dad had planted on Tuesday, was coming through on Saturday because of the heat units and how big that is to that, I guess, to get it out of the ground. And it just amazes me. And so when you see a spring like this where it is so cool, Keith, for you and Zach also, you know, how nervous does that make you nervous, Keith?
You know, yeah, you're always nervous until you get that corn out of the ground and you figure out what kind of stand you have, because you really set the table for the year as far as what kind of yield you can expect, what kind of potential you have. You know, you just start behind the 8 ball. If you intend to plant 33,000 and you end up with 25, or if you end up with 22, and then you have the decision on whether it's bad enough to go back and replant, everything along that line. So it's something that we really track pretty closely. You know, we're going to set record lows for heat units this month unless something miraculously turns around, but I think we've accumulated about 50 heat units for May so far, and our previous record low was 200. So it's just kind of the same thing everybody else is experiencing, this cold weather and just problematic. But you know, hoping the best. Things are, you know, looking good. We've been out digging, double checking things, and it's just hurry up and wait.
Keith, on your ridges, when you replant corn, do you just replant everything, or how do you jump it in, or what do you do that way?
Historically, we've kind of patched in, and it's happened so infrequently that I can't really tell you exactly how we do it each time. But historically, we've had issues with maybe a washout here and there, like Zach had talked about. If we get huge spring rains that come fast and would wash across our rows, we may patch in some small spots, or it'd be isolated to lower areas, and so we'll go back in and just replant, kind of interseeded, I would say, or not necessarily interseed, but seed right over the top. And it's really been varying results. It's never a satisfying experience.
Last week we talked a little bit about apps, what apps you use. Aside from your cell phone or your smartphone, what piece of technology could you not survive with on your farm, or without?
We maybe could survive without it, but you know, GPS, RTK, that stuff is pretty important to what we do. Not just make it easier to drive a tractor, but just being able to record data on the go and really know what's going on our farm a lot better than we otherwise would, and more old school kind of technology. Our forklift's pretty important this time. Just being able to handle all the seed and chemicals with forklift instead of smaller unit. If forklift were to crap out on us, that would impact our planting progress pretty significantly.
Keith, what about you?
As far as technology, without a doubt, it's my computer and a good old spreadsheet. So many management decisions that I make or we make around our farm are based on numbers that we can crunch on that, records that we can keep, things along that line. Just incredibly critical, and you know, figuring returns on investment, paybacks, anything along that line that we can do as far as number crunching, you know, I think really helps our management and is what really affects the bottom line around our place.
Judi?
Well, when I was thinking about it, I don't know if there's any that I can't live without, but there's just so many that, you know, make life so much easier on the farm. You got the mapping, you got the auto steer and that. I mean, you could live without those, but it just wouldn't be as fun. I'll tell you that.
Dave, what about you?
Well, obviously we put Field View on our iPad in this spring, and of course, you know that it takes a while to get used to some of the new technology issues and the auto steer and but the decisions still, as we've talked about, emergence and do you replant or do you not, and it still comes back to, you know, it's a decision that you have to mentally make, and well, do we chance it? Do we go with it? Do we leave it? And with soybeans, it's a little more forgiving. Soybeans are than corn is. Most of these hybrids anymore determine at ear size, and it doesn't flex as much, and so consequently, you got a poor stand, do you go ahead and change it? But beans are a little more forgiving that way, and so I guess the technology, yeah, it's all good, and you feel bad when it's not working because you've gotten used to it, but the decision making are the challenging portions of it. Do you leave what you got, or do you do something different? And then are we too late? Or are we not? So again, as I said last week about the book 40 Chances to get it right, and you know, is it going to be the right year or not the right year in spite of yourself? So, but they all end up being, you know, we make it through. You have to have a series of bad ones to put you out of business, but it can be a devastating time if you have 2 or 3 in a row. But we've had some very good years, and so consequently, it's, you know, we try to do the best we can with what we've got to work with.
Thanks, Dave. Allen, in Ohio, what's your go-to technology? Which one do you need the most on your farm?
Well, Megan, now you know better than to ask me that question. I have got an ink pen that I can click now instead of dipping it in the that's about as technology equipped as I am. But no, just kidding. My brothers actually went to auto steer. I have not. I run the planter and I plant without auto steer. It's a pride thing, I suppose, but I will go to one of these days. I did get a new soybean planter this year, which I went to Ag Leader Technology in it, so I can rate on the go. And so we planted maybe 300 or 400 acres of soybeans. I've been playing with that. I haven't scripted the fields yet, but going down in the lower soils, I've been cutting the rates down on the fly and then increasing them, you know, on the hills and the knobs. So kind of excited about that and see how that works out for us this fall.
Adam?
For me, I spend most of my time in the sprayer, so I'm pretty fond of my Swath Pro. Shutting those booms, shutting on and off as you go across where you've already been, that's pretty slick for me. And kind of like Alan was talking about the planter deal, we have variable rate on our planter as well. And I think the number one thing, the technology I like the most out of everything is our row clutches on our planter. It's pretty neat to be able to see, you know, where you come into point rows and stuff, how they just shut off right inside that first row, if not perfect on it. And, you know, that's also the one technology that's paid us back the quickest. You know, like the auto steer, it's your savings from it may not be tangible. It may be more of, you know, you can run longer in the field and stuff, but whenever you're not wasting seed, planting too much, you know, it's saving you money right there. So that's kind of our favorite. All
right, guys. It's open to you guys. What questions do you have for each other, and what do you want to know?
I got a question for Zach on the frost. You said you were maybe not sure, but we've been getting reports that there's been some heavy frost in your area. Is that true?
I mean, we're probably toward the southern edge of it. You know, it was 33 degrees this morning for a good solid half hour. I haven't had to scrape the windshield in my pickup or anything yet, but yeah, from here to the north, it's been very frosty. Up in Norfolk, which is a couple hours northeast of me, they were 29 this morning. So they're there's going to be frost damage out there. I know right outside my house is our first planted corn. We had some that was up, and some of it's looking a little rough. It was only, is just a couple inches out of the ground, but there's been some frost around, and I think in a few days we'll be able to tell what how significant it was.
We're supposed to get down to around 36 degrees here tonight, so it's going to depend on sky conditions whether we get frost or not. I'd say we got a lot of corn that's quite a ways along. It'll hurt it pretty bad if it does frost.
Question for Keith: when he's planting soybeans on, how do you do your soybeans on ridges? Or you knock the ridges off and make new ridges? How do you do that?
No, our ridges are permanent, and we'll just plant right into the old corn row with the soybeans on our ridge, and so it's all row crop. We haven't gone to a drill because of the ridges.
Okay.
And a lot of the folks around here that had went the way of drills have gone back to planting everything with the planter once the planter sizes got big and got central fills, etc. So it's worked for us. We see varying reports on how much yield we may be missing the opportunity on. I guess as far as a solid seeded bean or some of those maybe with 15-inch rows. But it's been something that's worked for us, and we've been pretty satisfied with it. The benefits of keeping the ridge outweigh the benefits of having a 15-inch row soybean, something along that.
So you're on 30-inch centers then, or 20s?
We're on 30s.
Yeah. Okay.
One thing I was wondering for Dave and Allen further east there, where it's been so wet, have you guys had to worry about changing maturities on hybrids or anything along that line yet, or how late do you go before you start switching over to earlier hybrids?
We haven't started switching yet, and once again, Keith, I think based on the heat rather than the calendar is why we're sticking to our guns right now. I think we'll probably run our program up until like the end of May, Memorial Day, somewhere around there, and then if we get wet at that point, like want to shorten it up. Right now, I think we're just going to stick to our guns.
Yeah, Keith, I've got an issue where I'm at. The field we got rained out in is 213-day corn, and so I'm half done with the field. So I'll let you answer the question. Do I go ahead and switch, or do I stay with 213 from here on out? And
Sure.
And the boxes are full, of course, so you tell me, what should I do?
Yeah. Boy, yeah, it's anyone's guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
One thing I was curious on from everybody, and maybe that's one of the things you're trying to get at, Megan, with your technology question is, we always we'd never leave the house without the pliers attached to our hip, and then it's been cell phones, and when we were going through the answers, I was thinking of how technology in the cab will actually shut me down. If our yield monitor quits during harvest, we'll stop and we'll make sure it's fixed before we keep going. We've got technology like that we rely on in the planter as far as our variable rate or our hydraulic drives. I'm just curious on everybody's varying degree of, if your monitor's not working or something along that lines. Is that to the critical point where you guys will shut down and fix it rather than trying to finish out the day or something along that lines?
I'll tell you what, Keith, on this new planter that I bought, I am pretty much old school. I think you guys have figured that out by now. I went with the Kinsey 3600 because it is hydraulic over mechanical. So in about a half an hour, I can put 6 chains on, shut the monitor off, like if we lose signal or the monitor goes out, and just set the rate manual with your sprockets and run, because I've seen guys sit around at the end of the field, they've lost their signal or they're having monitor trouble or whatever, and that stuff absolutely drives me crazy. So it's like when the weather's right, and you guys all know this, when the weather's right, it's time to go. So I'm not going to let a monitor slow me down.
Well, we had that also this spring. Starting out, the auto steer wasn't working, and so until we let the dealer know it wasn't working and they couldn't figure it out, but we could still go with our Kinsey planters, so we just kept going until they did get it fixed. But no, and even in the fall when we have yield monitor problems, I don't stop and wait for it to keep working to get it working again. I just keep going until the dealer can get it fixed or whatever can get worked out. So I really don't let it stop me. But that's why I say the technology is something that's nice to have, and you can't live with that. It's not that you can't live with that. It's just nice to have, and that's the way we look at it.
Yeah, with ours, I mean, we'll try to make sure everything's working right with the monitors and all those systems. There are times where it gets to the point you wonder about, what kind of trade-off are you making now at this point where you're losing productive hours because you're trying to get something else going. But for the most part, I mean, I don't think we cross a threshold where it's become too much of a hassle. So we usually try to make sure things are working like they're supposed to.
Adam, what about for you guys?
We're kind of walk a fine line. We're kind of, some things are still like Alan's talking about, kind of old school, but our planter tractor is hydraulic driven, so to an extent we need a monitor to kind of control our rates. I think we might still have the ability to put the chains back on it. But as far as like combine, we don't let that stop us. Last fall, cutting beans, we had a yield sensor went out, and so we had absolutely nothing in it. So we kept going. Wasn't going to let that stop us. And like somebody said, stuff's nice to have, but you don't have to have it. Like planting, if the auto steer goes out, you drop the marker and you keep going like you used to.
I will say one thing we do that we do have a little bit of a trade-off for is, I don't know that we necessarily have the absolute best technology for each thing we're doing, but or we keep it all under one company. So when planter monitor goes out or something like that, we know who to contact. It's not, we just call our dealer and they come out and take care of it instead of trying to go through the line of tracing which dealer we have to call to try to figure it out. So we try to keep it streamlined as much as possible, so we have technology could be better with a different company.
Yeah, we had a situation last year, Megan, that our equipment in the sprayer was giving us problems, so we took it out. The faceboard went out, and well, it's not a problem. We could fix it at the shop. Well, took it to the shop. They couldn't fix us. They didn't have a spare to give us. Sent it in. Supposed to have it back in a day and a half, and it was 2.5 weeks. We had some custom spraying done, obviously, and we do now have two different monitors that are interchangeable. The planter, sprayer, they're all the same brand, and we can change one out if we need to. So had a hard lesson last year. It took some time.
All right, guys. It's good to see everybody. I'm hopefully next week when we talk, everybody else has been able to make some advancements. That's not finished yet. Dave, Alan, Zach, Keith.
Yeah.
Judi and Adam are doing all right, I guess. A little bit.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good here.
We'll let you have some of our rain.
Godzilla this weekend.
Well, we look forward to seeing everybody next week. Thanks again for great conversation and the updates from around the Corn Belt. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, guys.